Get there, I think.
There's some food back in the breakfast. And go back after two.
Well,
We'll wait. No, you're fine. You don't have to hurry.
Okay.
No, just right now. It's usually later on.
Might not be like that.
Oh, I heard it. I had to ask.
Delete.
Good evening, people.
Good evening. How are things down where you are?
Good. Real good. Today was a moving day, so just got here a couple hours ago.
Move to.
Right now we're north of Fort Myers, about a half an hour. In the
Okay.
Myakka River area.
Gotcha. Well, it was a gorgeous day up here today, Baker. Got up to 55, I think.
I saw that. Did you go golfing?
Nope, I didn't, but thanks. A little snow out there in places.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
All right. Jackie's not on yet. You will note when she joins.
Yep, I will watch for her.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. We will call to order city council work session and regular business meeting for Thursday, February 1st, 2024. It is 5:01 p.m. Lindsay, would you please call a roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Cool,
Here.
Livingston, Meineke.
Here.
Mayor Tom Phillips.
I'm here as well. We do have quorum, so we will move on. Item number 2 is pledge of allegiance. Would you please rise and say the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which is standing one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Our next item is approval of the agenda. We're going to remove consent agenda items F, G, and H from the agenda tonight. Would anybody like to move any of the other consent agenda items to the regular agenda? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Motion. Second. Okay, motion by Cool, seconded by Brown. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Hi.
All those opposed, same. Motion carries. Item number 4, we have a dedicated work session tonight. This is dedicated work session for mayor and council. Regular city council meeting will begin following this work session or at 6 o'clock, whichever comes first. And I imagine 6 o'clock is going to come first. We're going to go ahead and start. Gene's going to give a little overview or short overview, and then we're going to get into the department presentations. Gene, you're going to do administration as well? Yeah, good. All right.
Okay, thank you. In the past, the city manager, Luke Nelson, and I have presented a PowerPoint that kind of gives a general overview of the budget. Then I kind of dig into the weeds a little bit more and give you values, revenues, tax implications, things of that nature. We decided to do it a little bit different this time around and have the departments do their presentations first. We kind of did that for 2 reasons. Luke is unable to be here. He has a family commitment. I believe he is online, but that was one of the reasons. And the other is we thought it would be a good idea to kind of discuss the overall big picture of the budget and where we stand financially after the department presentations. The department budgets that you will hear from tonight, the department heads, they're not simply just asking for items. These are budgets that the city manager and myself have been created and developed with the department heads. They are, generally speaking, numbers that fit within our budget policies that have been established by the elected officials. We have 2 new members this year, council members Brown and Meineke. You may wonder, what is the role you play in while these budgets are being presented? This is an opportunity for you to understand the budgets, understand what is being requested and how the respective departments spend money. This is also an opportunity for all of the elected officials to take notes, maybe decide if cuts need to be made in certain areas or additional allowances to be made in other departments. In my agenda statement, I did indicate that 3 staff people were requested, or 3 departments requested staff that have not been put into the budget. And that was due to financial constraints, trying to stay within our 30% general fund policy. However, a couple things have changed. These 3 positions, one was a police officer, one was a parks technician, and the other was an administrative staff that was going to be split between fire and economic development. Since then, the parks department has decided to not request an additional staff person. Instead, make modifications within their department and try to make it work with the staffing levels that they currently have. Also this week, 6 department heads met to discuss the administrative positions throughout the city. We have staff. Most departments have administrative staff, and we met to talk about all the departments and see if there could be some efficiencies realized with using those current people, those current folks. We had a lot of good ideas. Maybe making some changes of where people are housed or how that works. Not everyone has to be in the office, in particular, that might need help. So anyway, we have a lot of good ideas. When we come up with those, we will be bringing those to mayor and council as soon as possible. The Human Resources Director, Carrie, she is putting together a report, and we are looking at all departments. And so it includes all administrative staff, not just a few. So with that position, we will probably just ask for part-time funds instead of full-time employee, and potentially there may not be a need at all. So we just thought to keep that as a placeholder in the budget for a part-time. I don't have anything else other than that. If you don't have any questions, we will move right into the department presentations, and administration would be the first one. Unless you have questions before we get started.
I have a question. You mentioned the positions we're adding, and the library is adding a position as of the first part of the year. Why is that not included?
That was brought to council, I believe, a month ago. 2 weeks ago.
Last time.
2 weeks ago. And I believe the discussion centered around, maybe I'm wrong, I thought that if it was approved, it would be understanding that it would be ongoing.
The trust was going to cover it up until the fiscal year, and then it was adding for us. So that's a absolute 1 person being added.
That is true. The trust is paying for January to June. That person has committed. They have signed up for our benefits. So that person has been added to the budget for July 1.
And we have adjusted the part-time budget to allow for some of the transfer of the salary and benefits
That's a good
into
point.
that.
That's a good point.
Yes,
It's
was
not a
planned for.
full-time, it's not 1 FTE, it's converting a part-time to a full-time.
Good.
So it's not,
Good.
it's about $50,000 difference,
Mhm.
I think we determined, instead of 90,000.
Right.
Okay. I was just thinking we needed to include that with the discussion of the 3. It's actually 4.
Okay,
We've already approved that one.
it's in the numbers, if you want to take that out for
No,
consideration.
no. I'm talking about going forward as of 25. We're adding 4 people. That's all I'm saying. We approved it, but but the funds haven't started till 25. That's all I'm pointing out is it's gonna be another major hurdle for us.
So what you want to know is the
Understood.
dollar amount that increases potentially the next budget. Is that right?
No, it's in our information. It's approximately up 90 grand for 25. I just wondered why it wasn't included in the listing of additional people. That's all.
Okay, understood. It is, you're right, it is a new position for 25. Understood. We'll move forward to the administration budget.
Yes.
Okay, I believe it's up on the screen. The administration budget includes the mayor, the city council, the city manager, finance, city clerk, human resources, city attorney, information technology, social services, and elections. I have listed our accomplishments and goals. I don't plan on reading those. But if you have any questions, let me know. The first page shows social services. It's a very small part of this budget, but we do get requests each year. And we include $12,000 for the cemetery, $10,000 for a homeless shelter that serves Norwalk people, and then 9,000 for HERDA. HERDA actually asked for 30,600, 27,000 for operations, and 3,400 for capital. We just simply put in the same amount that we did last year, which was 9,000. They seem fine with that. The executive administration budgets, city manager, the mayor. It's their wages, allowances, education, training, and conferences. Financial administration is partial wages for the finance director, myself, city clerk, education and training, insurance for city hall, and consulting fees for PFM. We do have a small portion for elections. We just had an election this year. Those prices are going up. We put in 20,000 as a placeholder for next year in case we decide, the mayor and council decide that we want to do a vote on a park, I believe out west. And Pine Needles was one that we talked about. There is a new requirement with the legislation that if we do go to a vote, the county has to mail out a notice to every resident and indicate that demonstrates what this would do to their taxes. I tried to get a number from them. I didn't get one, so I put 20,000 in, hoping that's way more than necessary. The legal services, Jim Doherty's wages, and then any outside legal counsel. This also includes city hall, general building, so anything with this building, maintenance. We just we finished partial roof this year. We've got the other half in next year, which is $50,000. We also included in the city hall budget 16,000 for a survey. We try to do a survey every so often. The City State Bank building, we put money in for coming out of our budget because now the Parks and Recreation, assuming they will move in July into their new building, they will no longer have those expenses. Those will be turned over to us. We're hoping we can be out of that building by January of next year. So maybe that cost will be cut in half. IT is huge. This budget, overall admin budget, is going up 24%. It's about 275,000. 210,000 of that is IT. We contract with the school for IT services. We use their employees. They come in. It has worked really well, but those costs have gone up an additional $100,000. And then we also have cybersecurity and equipment upgrades that are continual. You know, everybody has heard cybersecurity in the news lately. We are no exception. Those are about $100,000. And we do have some lost money that we are using to pay for those. So that's kind of the admin. I went through that rather quickly.
What's lost money?
What's lost? He wants to know.
I don't know what's lost money.
What's the acronym?
Local option sales and service taxes. Sorry, we get about $1.5 million each year for local option sales tax. Good question.
So that technology increase, that's really for all the departments, it's just lumped in one place, right?
It's for all. We just run it through the admin budget. But yeah, it's for all departments.
Yep.
So the equipment, we have like computers that get replaced on a so many years basis. And then the security upgrades or anything cybersecurity, we just run through our budget, but it's for the entire city.
Okay. And this also supports the discussions we had with the schools about IT support, staffing in that way, right?
It does. Our contract with them is $125,000 a year.
Thank you.
You expect that to kind of stay at that level, or is that kind of a?
The IT budget?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the biggest part of our increase. Is that what you're asking?
Is it gonna stay at that level, or is it just a one-off up for 1 year, maybe come back down, it's just gonna stay up there?
It's gonna stay up.
there, okay.
It's gonna stay up because their contract went from 25,000 to 125,000.
Okay.
And then our cybersecurity needs and equipment needs just
Doesn't
are
stop.
very constant.
Okay.
Well, if you don't have any other questions, I believe community development is next.
Right.
With Paris is on Zoom.
Yep, thank you all. Just before I start, my internet was being spotty for a little bit, so if I cut out and I don't come right back, I guess I would say just move on and I will try to get back on a better connection. So that's fine. But on the screen, you've got our goals and accomplishments, 2023 accomplishments. Talked a lot about these recently, but a lot of commercial building this year, 11 new construction, 10 remodel and additions. You all see everything getting built around town, so I think everybody's got a good handle on what those projects are. I do just want to call a little special attention to those remodels. Sometimes we don't see those as much, but those are just as important to the community, people investing in their businesses and helping grow the community in that way as well. Not as much residential as we've seen in past years, but still pretty average year when you take out the high years of 2021 and 2022. Platting and development review pretty consistent as well. You can see the numbers there. This was our second year of our LMI, low moderate income rehab assistance program. We took 4 projects through that. And we've fully implemented our rental inspection process. We've got that all up and running. We've kind of had a whole 12 months of that. And so we'll be into the second year of that here in our 2024, which is one of our goals for 2024 is to have those fully implemented and have really start in on the cycle. The rental inspections are required every 2 years. So we'll finish up the ones that we've not gotten a chance to get at this year, hopefully. And then we'll be on a 2-year cycle. Also going to take a look at some of our comprehensive plan goals and how those relate to our zoning ordinances and development regulations. We are very hopeful that we get the NRCS easement issues addressed so we can get the North River sewer going. That's a really big one for the community. Again, continuing that rehab assistance program. Recently, we assigned 2 of our staff as interim code officials, and they're currently in the process of training up to get all the remaining certifications they need. So we hope to accomplish that this year so they can move on from those roles as interim. And then just continuing to work, then do all the things that we do to help support the community and expanding our commercial base and our residential growth as well. Budget-wise itself, I guess for our new council members, community development budget is split into 2 areas. There is our building division budget, and then the other one we call community development. It's more of our planning and zoning budget. We do that because it's statutorily required that our building permit costs are related to the cost to provide the service. So we can't just arbitrarily charge a building permit and then take that money in as revenue. It's got to cover our costs. So you'll see there nothing too out of the ordinary from past years. I guess I'd call a little special attention to our ash borer remediation. So how we do nuisances and abatement. If the city has to step in and abate someone's property, someone's nuisance, whether that be a tree or really even just mowing or anything that they've not done, the city incurs that cost up front. We attempt to invoice that back. Probably about half the time we actually get the folks to pay their bill. The other half of the time we have to go through a lien process. And so there's like a cash flow issue there where we've got dollars that have gone out and they might not come back until the next fiscal year. So that can be challenging to budget for. So, but in general, those should even themselves out as we collect those invoices and liens. So you can see that there we added 25,000 for ash borer specifically because the cost of abating a dead tree is more significant than what we would do with lawn mowing and things. So we wanted to make sure we had some dollars set aside in the case of that. In the past 2 years thus far, we've not had to utilize those dollars. But as we keep going on, trees will keep becoming more of a problem, and we want to make sure we've got the ability to address them. On community development side, something for our new members that I'll call attention to would be the outside or the consultant and professional services. You can see it's a pretty large number, $230,000. That's another similar budget item where the city incurs costs to conduct a review of different projects. Whenever we have a site plan or a plat document, we make sure we have engineering review of that. We turn around and invoice that back to the developers. So that comes back into us as a revenue as well. So that line item usually is a net zero. But we need to obviously budget to spend those dollars. And then we've got a capital improvement program on community development for sidewalk widening. City has a policy that where we have trails identified, that the city will contribute to the extra widening. So a city would normally require a 5-foot sidewalk. If we have a place where there's an 8-foot trail identified, we will come in and cover the extra 3 feet of pavement in those areas. And so that those dollars are set aside in the community development budget from when we have that. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward budget from last year to this year, not requesting any new staff. We do currently have one vacant position in the department. We're going to let that ride for a while, see how we do with things, with how we've reorganized the department. But we want to hold on to that position if we need to bring someone in at an entry level later on into the fiscal year. So happy to take any questions if you have them.
So generally, that question, when I look at that budget for the community development, we're really not subsidizing development as far as developers.
Correct.
That's a good way to look at that. They're covering all the costs.
Yep,
Yes.
100%.
Hey, George, move closer to the microphone, would you please?
Oh, all right. I'm done talking though, but I will next time.
What were you gonna say, Lou?
I was just affirming that George is correct. It's not a subsidization of development.
No, we have to show in our budget all the expenditures we have. They have to be, noted. And so even if it's a compensation back, like a grant or whatever, we still have to illustrate it as an expense. And it has to be captured in the budget.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, if you were to scroll back up onto the first page of the development budget, you see under charges for services, there's a revenue line item of 230,000 for subdivision application fees, OER. So, yeah.
Yes, no, I appreciate that. Yep.
Any other questions? Wayne, you're up.
One paper to get. Thank you. This was part of the 220 pages I read the other day.
Thank you, Mayor. I handed out to council members, elected officials, a list of CIP projects that will be happening this calendar year. Some of them are fiscal year 24, some are fiscal year 25, but there'll be action on all those this year.
What does CIP stand for?
Capital Improvement Plan. Well, Public Works has 5 budgets that we operate from. There's streets, water, sanitary sewer, storm sewer, and other, with other being a general fund budget. In all the budgets, we're not asking for any new staff tonight. Similar to community development, we have one open position that we're trying to fill that was approved in last year's budget. That'll be a streets employee. But nothing new in the current budget required, or current budget year being considered. I'm not going to get into the accomplishments and goals. If you read it and have questions, reach out. I'll be happy to discuss it. The streets budget, there's 5 sections within that. There's street maintenance, lighting, traffic control, winter operations, and for some reason, there's a separate amount allocated for street cleaning as well. In there, there's a 5 for the whole entire street budget. There's a 5% increase in revenue this year. That's mostly road use tax being increased. And there's $2 million, a little over $2 million in expenditures. Something I'd like to highlight is this year, fiscal year 25, we have $900,000 from road use tax and laws going into street maintenance. So that's money going into the streets onto the streets, if it's pavement striping. That's a combination of internal staff repairs and contracted work, patching, potholing, striping, crack and joint sealing. We're really big on trying to maintain what we have and not let it get to terrible condition. And along with that maintenance money, I've given you that list of CIP projects. So you see the city is putting a lot of emphasis and a great investment into the streets. Okay. The next budget is water. This one has 5 million in expenditures for fiscal year 25. The largest line item is 1.89 million to Des Moines Waterworks. For water, we buy that from Des Moines Waterworks. They do the treatment. We have money allocated for water main installation and upsizing for new developments. So there's $1 million in the budget to get water to Maple Heights, the Lone Tree development. We have 60,000 for maintenance and repairs and 120,000 for water meters. The water meter, if there's a slow year of resident growth, our department works really close with Lindsay and City Hall on replacing old meters. So even if we have a slowdown in housing, we still spend all that money on replacing old meters that are high mileage, I call them. All I have on that. For the sanitary sewer budget, this is 3.8 million. Similar to the water treatment, we ship our wastewater off for treatment at the WRA. That's 1.6 million. There's budgeted money for, again, going to developments. We have 500,000 for the Lone Tree Maple Heights development, 150,000 for maintenance and repairs. This typically is root treatment for sanitary sewers and cleaning them to make sure they flow. We're also spending money every year on inflow and infiltration. Everything that goes into the sewer, we pay to have it treated. So inflow and infiltration is clean groundwater that gets into the sewers. We try to cut that out because we don't need to pay to treat that clean water. So every year we spend money on, we call it I&I removal, inflow and infiltration. Storm sewer.
And Wayne, some of that comes from sump pumps as well, right?
Yes.
Hopefully not. But
Yep. Years ago, it was pretty common practice if you had a sump pump to just dump it, discharge it into the sanitary sewer. We do periodically work with community development to tackle areas of town to do inspections, to get sump pumps disconnected from the sanitary sewer, because again, that's clean water that doesn't need to be going to the wastewater plant.
Hey Wayne, this is Luke. One thing, can you guys hear me okay?
yeah,
One thing that I wanted to make sure was understood, you talked about the $1 million for water for Maple Heights, and then I think it was 800,000 for Maple Heights. Those are like the some of those fees that Luke Paris was talking about earlier, that's an in-out because it's actually the developer that's financing that project, but we have to show it as an expenditure, but also them reimbursing us.
Yeah, thank you, Luke. That's represented in the revenue column. That's an in and an out. I strictly mention it because it's the biggest line you'll see and one of the biggest numbers you'll see in there. And that's what that number's for. Okay, storm sewer, we have $1 million in expenditures. Again, similar to the other utilities, we spend money every year doing maintenance. This is intake repairs and drainage way maintenance. I work with Gene to allocate money every year we put it aside for a CIP fund. It seems like our stormwater projects are always large dollar projects, so we're taking money every year from our operating budget and putting it into essentially an account where we can do a bigger project and not have to bond for it. We'll have that money, we'll have cash for that. And then the last budget is other, it's the general fund. This is our garbage and recycling collection. That's $1 million this coming year. Portions of our mechanic and building and grounds staff comes from that fund, and then the Southern Loop roadway engineering or our southern connector to the Interstate 35. That's it. Again, if you look through and have any questions, be happy to get together and talk to anybody.
On the water side. So what's the present status of Peter coming in from the well?
Yep, so it's functionally complete. The contractor has a few punch list items to complete, but it's fully operational. We're using that. The remaining items are on the meter vault, and I believe it has something to do with communication from the meter vault to Des Moines Waterworks.
Okay.
But it's in operation. We've been benefiting from that for quite a while now, which is good.
Good.
Yeah, last year I think our peak day was 2.8 million gallons. That would have been a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
3 or 4 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I just wondered, could you just stand up and give a few more speeches to us?
I'm not quite comfortable up here. People learn I don't like meetings.
Well, you said it, one of the first things I was at is like, everyone else talked and then you had an opportunity, but you were like, no, I don't need to talk.
So you know that, you choose to pick on me.
Chief. You're up.
We'll do the regular thing first. Okay, thank you all for the opportunity to present the budget. Dean, thank you for all your work putting the numbers together. It's amazing that I can stand here and tell you that pretty much everything in the next sheet is accounted for. That's just good to know that that's the way things work here. Goals and objectives, I'll just want to point out that the accomplishments for this year are everything I said I wanted to do last year. So when I started to put this together, I looked and I was like, wow, look at that. We did everything we said we were supposed to do. So hopefully next year I'll be able to say the same thing. As far as the budget goes on the next page, this is the police department budget. It funds police operations, everything except for the annual purchase of police cars, the money that we pay Westcom for dispatch services, repairs to the police building, that's in a separate budget. And what it does, this budget does not have anything in it for is animal services. Currently, right now, Public Works handles dog transports and dog kenneling and dog rehoming back to where they came from. That will change July 1st, will be a police function. I'm currently looking for a contractor to do that service for us. We believe we have a dedicated funding stream through dog licensing that could pay for that. I don't have a contractor yet, but I think I'm close. So that'll be another discussion later. Two things I wanted to call out on this budget. Again, it's mostly the same as last year with a few increases in areas. Police car gas continues to be an increase in expenses. You'll notice at the bottom of page 1, consultant fees is an increase. And there's a note called CALIA, $5,000. CALIA is the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. It's a national accreditation service or bureau. It's my goal to move us toward an accredited status. Currently, CALIA is our only option because there is no state accreditation. However, the Iowa Police Chiefs Association either hired or is about to hire a person to create a state accreditation program. And if they do that, then it might be more wise for us to become state accredited instead of national accredited due to expense. If we don't move forward with accreditation, then 5,000 of that $8,000 goes away because we won't be spending the money to join that club. For lack of better words, we are applying for a grant to pay that initial 5,000, but that doesn't mean we'll get it. And once we become accredited, there's an annual fee that's currently $3,500. I don't know if there would be an annual fee under the state's program. I believe accreditation is something we should do. We're a modern, progressive police department and in a city. Accreditation is something we should do. It's also important because I told the COPS grant, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, that would be something I would try to accomplish during the 5 years of grant program. On the next page, you'll see under minor equipment, there's a significant increase. That increase is due to two reasons. One, ammunition purchases, something we've never budgeted for specifically. We've just kind of done it here and there. Sometimes we'll get a big allotment that's lasts a couple years and then we'll just supplement it with small dollars. Last year we funded it through the sale of guns that we were no longer using. Also in that 47,000 is equipment for a new tactical team officer. We currently have one. We'd be better served with two. And it's my intention to put somebody else in that program. If they do, then they need to buy the specialized equipment. That's about 8,000 or 10,000. That'll be important later as we go through the next portion of my presentation. You'll see at the bottom, public safety budget. That's what I was speaking about earlier. The public safety budget does about 5 things. Pays for building repairs, public safety building. It pays for the electricity, run the public safety building. And it pays for Westcom, a Homeland Defense Agreement with the city of Des Moines, and our connection to the Iowa system that allows us to run our police computers and connect to Westcom. We created the public safety budget about 3 years ago to keep all of those expenses out of the police budget, making it look like the police budget was way higher than it actually was. So, questions on this?
How much goes to Homeland Security?
$11,517. It's a 2080 agreement with the city of Des Moines that gives us tactical response for nuclear, biological, or chemical attacks, bomb threats, and just general tactical backup. We are also members of the Suburban Emergency Response Team, which is a tactical response team that serves all of the metro cities except Pleasant Hill, Des Moines, and Windsor Heights. But I think Windsor Heights is going to join CERT now that they're in Westcom. And for that, we pay $900 a year membership, and then the expenses to maintain our own person within the team. We're required to have a minimum of one based on our size. It's suggested we have 2 team members.
Just out of curiosity, is that the one that went to Perry?
Well, yes. Well, there were 200 officers that went to Perry from around the metro. One of them was a Norwalk officer who was on duty that morning, but he is not a member of the CERT team currently. He has the desire to be, which is why I'm asking for money.
Okay.
So, but there now the tactical teams in general did go to Perry. Okay. Other questions? Okay. So now the PowerPoint, Lindsay. So as Gene said, one of the things that is not in the police budget currently is a request for an additional police officer. Police department is currently staffed with 22 people, one of which is administrative in nature, and there's 21 sworn positions authorized. two of those foreign positions that are authorized now were COPS grants that we were awarded about 2.5 years ago. The position I'm asking for tonight is another COPS grant, third of 3 that we were awarded, like I said, 2.5 years ago. When I applied for that grant, I anticipated that by this time we would have grown to a point where 3 additional officers would be appropriate. And that so far has held true. So this request is a discussion about adding another police position to give us 22 total police officers and fund this position partially through COPS grant for the next 3 years. I put a lot of information in these 6 slides. We have 2 new council members, and so there's information for you. Everybody else has heard this a number of times already. So I'm going to go quick in the interest of time. But please do ask questions. Okay. All right, so I got this set up in 3 different questions. How many officers do we need? What are the community expectations of the police department and of the city providing police service, and how do we pay for an extra staff? There's a number of ways to determine how many police officers you need. Currently, we provide 2 officers on duty 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, guaranteed. That's our minimum staff required to get the job done. That number 2 was given to me as a goal by previous councils several years back. We worked for 5 years to get there. And then in September of 2020, we had enough police officers on staff to be able to put 2 officers out 24/7. And since September of 2020, we have done that. So the first question is that a standard that we want to keep? And my belief is that yes, absolutely, that's a standard we want to keep. If that's not the standard, then we don't need a 22nd police officer. If that is the standard, then we absolutely do. I believe it's because it's not safe for the officers, it's not safe for the community, and it doesn't maintain the International City Managers Association Rule of 60. I don't want to go into a long statistical discussion about what the Rule of 60 is, but basically it is a number that keeps your department properly staffed. 60%, at least 60% of your total department staff should be patrol officers or assigned to the patrol function. And the officers in the patrol function should not have more than 60% of their time at work each day accounted for. There should be 40% unaccounted for. And the reason for that is studies from the City Managers Association have shown that when the tasks that an officer has to perform occupy more than 60% of their time, they hit a saturation index and they stop working. They stop doing proactive patrol. They stop trying to prevent crime. They stop looking for drunk drivers and drug deals and that sort of thing, because they become reactionary, because in their minds they feel overwhelmed and it just shuts down. So the Rule of 60 is important. 1, it shows that you're keeping your patrol allocation properly staffed. And 2, it shows that you're keeping your patrol officers sufficiently available to do proactive police work. Okay. If we drop to 1 police officer on duty, that 1 officer would hit the saturation index really quickly. That's another reason why we need 2 at a minimum on duty. As we're staffed now at 21 officers, we have that authorized, but we're not 21 strong. We've been operating at 18 since July. We have an opening. We have a long-term person, an officer with a long-term illness. And since July, we've been operating at 18. And at 18, we're below 60% allocation to staff patrol. The next answer is take somebody from not assigned to patrol and put them on patrol. Well, I can't do that because the rest of the department is the investigator, the 2 school resource officers, the sergeant that supervises the investigators and the resource officers and the assistant chief. They all have full-time jobs. So to make them stop so they can go do patrol work hampers the rest of the So that's why we need to maintain a minimum of 2 questions. How many do you need? There's a number of ways to determine that. One would be a statistical analysis of the time officers spend, what their committed time is, to see if it's more or less than 60%. I don't have the data available to do that. I think I finally figured out how to do it. And that's something I'm going to try to do later this early spring. But if you wanted, one popular way is to just look at the population. It's a good barometer. It doesn't mean that's a tried and true fast way of 100% telling you how many officers you need. But the FBI thinks that Iowa has 1.8 per 1,000 people is the number of officers. The metro average is 1.52 officers per 1,000. Norwalk is currently at 1.48 per 1,000, using a 2023 population estimate from the Census Bureau. And if we added this officer, and if we're at 15,000, which we believe we are because we're doing a census to prove it, we'd be at 1.46. So adding this officer keeps us where we are now in terms of population. An interesting factoid is that when searching for statistics to show how many officers we need, we found a website created in 2021 called Defund the Police. And in that website, they used a population-based formula to tell you how many officers you should have. And they thought at the time we had about 11,500 officers, and they said we should have up to 27 police officers. So the Defund the Police movement thinks that Norwalk could have more police officers. Just thought that was interesting. Our calls are going up. Homicides are up 300%. We had 0 in 2021. Now we've had 3 since. Since 2021, crimes against persons is up. Property crimes are up. Calls are continue to go up. Okay. So how many is enough? I think 22 is enough. That's an increase of 1. That's one standard. What are the community expectations? In 2021, we did a survey. In fact, Jean just said it's time to do another survey. She's got money set aside to do that. In 2021, the survey said a number of things. 93% of the people were satisfied with police services. 93% said that the feeling of safety was the most influential aspect in perception of the city outside the city. 98% said the most important reason to live here was safety and security. And then some other things they said was they wanted residents wanted an increased emphasis and increased efforts on those 4 things: preventing crime, visibility, speeding, drug and alcohol enforcement. Our purpose is to preserve and improve why people want to live and work here. The survey plainly said that the reason why people want to live here is because of safety and security. And they want increased police services. I think we can preserve and improve by adding 1 officer. Okay. So that's the community expectations. How will we pay for it? This is a really interesting graph. In 2020, we had 2 officers per on duty 24/7. You can see the 2020 line has 69,000 and change spent in overtime. This is overtime costs per year for the last 7 years, or 8 years, 7 plus 1 year projected. 2020, the number is high because of COVID and the way we worked our schedule. In 2021, we had a full complement of police officers. Nobody out injured long-term and no openings. And you can see that the overtime expenditure was lower. In 2021, at the end of 2021, we had a resignation, which created an opening, and we began to have long-term injuries. Since 2021, we've had 6 people out for injuries long-term, injuries or illness out long-term. And the interesting thing is, as soon as we had openings in the department and long-term injuries, our overtime expenses went up. And we generally maintained about 1.2 people out if people came and went. And until July of 2023. July of 2023, we had an opening and we had a long-term illness. And that person is still ill and the opening is still there. We haven't been able to fill it. And the projected overtime for two people being out is 110,000. If we add this person in, we can lower the overtime costs because we will have other people to fill gaps when somebody resigns or is out 100%. Questions on that? Okay. How do we pay for an officer? Sorry for the small writing. For 3 years, we have a COPS grant that will help pay for us. The first year is the most expensive of the years. Because we would have to send somebody to the academy, we have to buy them equipment and that sort of thing. So in year one, the orangish pinkish line, you can see the salary number, the cost to send somebody to the academy, the equipment that we have to buy because it's a new position. We don't have a pistol for them. We don't have a taser for them. We don't have badges for them, a bulletproof vest, uniforms. That's where that 7,500 comes from. The 5,000 listed in other is because that's an acknowledgement that another person on staff is just going to cause other things to increase. We're going to spend more on gas. There's going to be some overtime costs because that person will get a late call. We're driving the cars more, so they're going to have oil changes that need tires are going to wear out faster. So it's just a wild guess on what that would cost and to acknowledge that those costs are there. On the potential revenue side, the grant can pay about $43,000 back to us. We would reduce overtime if my theory is correct. The academy there is money in the budget that that I presented earlier, what Gene said is generally funded for an academy. It's not necessarily for this person. It's in case we have a resignation or retirement, which could be imminent. We have two people eligible for retirement and they're both looking for jobs. So that doesn't mean they'll leave, but it means they couldn't. And so we put an academy fee in the training line of the police budget just for that. If they don't leave, then that money is available for this person. I have $20,000 listed in capital. You haven't seen the lost budget yet. But in that budget, there's $20,000 for police equipment. That $20,000 is for a taser conversion upgrade program. Our tasers that we carry now are no longer supported. They're not made. And we are going to upgrade to the next model. The ones we have still work. They'll work until they stop. And when they stop, we can buy another one. We don't have to do the taser upgrade. So I propose if the staff member comes, that I take that $20,000 and spend it on the $7,500 in equipment that this officer needs and the ammunition that was in the minor equipment budget we talked about earlier, and not do the taser program. And then this person would have to go to the academy most likely. The academy's late August. I wouldn't hire them until August 1st, not July 1st. That saves $1,500 in salary that we wouldn't pay somebody from July in the month of July. All that being said, if all that happens, technically there's no impact to the budget to add the person next year. The following 2 years, it's more wide open. The grant is still there, but there aren't other revenues to pay for anything except for as people retire, the salary of a replacement person will be less. There's $20,000 difference from starting pay to top pay in the police departments. So if we do have a retirement, the person replacing will earn about $20,000 less. So those are costs that I can't guess. Savings of revenue I can't guess. So questions on that? Okay, and then we advance it.
Not working for you?
Oh, just advance it to the next one. Yeah, okay. So as we do in our agenda statements, I listed some alternatives. We can reduce the budget like I suggested with and use the funding for the academy and take away the capital program money. Authorize the one officer increase. Preserve why people wanna live and work here. Use the $125,000 in grant funding for the COPS grant. Or we can decline the opportunities. I feel like it's something we should do. I feel like it's appropriate. I feel like it's the proper time. And I feel like since we have $125,000, we should take advantage of it. If we don't take advantage of it, we'll give it back. We can't wait any longer. We're already in a position where we're gonna have to ask for an extension to use it. So we need to just decide to use it or not at this point. So that's what I have. Questions?
This has to be this or the next.
This would start July 1st.
Yeah, July 1st, okay.
Yeah, we are trying to hire a position now, which happens to be a COPS grant. We hired somebody in August that didn't work out, so the position reopened.
Okay.
So, but what we just talked about today, I wouldn't hire anybody till August 1st. Okay,
Good briefing, chief. Thanks.
thanks, sir.
So we are at 5:10. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and stop this, or do you think you can get yours done in 5 minutes?
I think I can get it.
All right,
Oh, here we go.
all right, that's your,
Hold on.
that's your challenge, Ian.
I think I can beat Wayne even. Thank you, Mayor. The fire department, where to start?
Go for it.
The fire department operates with 11 full-time employees, myself and the fire inspector, along with 9 individuals that are assigned to operations. Those are supplemented by some part-time employees that give us 4 firefighter EMS providers, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Though we did increase our full-time staff, the number of full-time staff for fiscal year 23. In the middle of that was just a conversion of part-time hours. We did not increase our staffing levels. And we have not increased our staffing levels for over several years. In calendar year 2022, we responded to 1,637 calls for service. It was relatively flat from 2021, but up about 9% from the year prior. Of these calls, though, we did increase our calls inside of corporate city limits by about 5%, 16% within our contractual service agreement areas, which is Lynn Township and the city of Cumming. But we showed about a 32% decrease of the mutual aid that we are giving out to the county. That was a task that was given to me when I came on here, is what council wanted to see. So I'm happy to report that I feel like that is back in check now, again, decreasing those level of mutual aid calls that we were giving away. On the other side of things, we received mutual aid from primarily
Sorry, Chief,
West
I have to jump in and say good job on that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. On the other side of the coin, we did receive mutual aid from West Des Moines, primarily at about 1% of our total call volume. So that's okay there. And the fire department's budgets are split between fire and EMS. It's relatively for shared expenditures and revenues. The split is based on call volume. So roughly 80% of our calls are EMS driven, while the other 20% are fire and rescue driven. So you'll see those numbers reflected. In the revenue line item, under the fire budget, the township line, just so the new council members know, the township rate, that comes from Lynn Township. That's the township that we provide contractual services to. That's what that line item this is there for. Between the fire and EMS budget, you'll see an 80-20 split in the city fire and EMS services. That is where the city of Cumming pays their fees to us. For those of you that are new, we had renegotiated the rates of the city of Cumming. Fiscal year 25 does show them at the final rate that we had negotiated, which was $272 per thousand, which we felt was an equitable rate to the citizens of Norwalk. We do intend to renegotiate those rates as we work into the next contract, but that was the final move of the contract that we're in currently. That line item also includes per fee costs that we pass on to primarily Martinsdale and Northern Warren. If we respond to those agencies for EMS driven calls, we do charge them a per rate call. That is currently $200 per call going into fiscal year 24. That is, or I'm sorry, 25. That is increasing to $250 per call. We move down into the charges, fees for services. That's where our EMS revenues are located. We see a slight decrease there. Our projected for this year was $650,000. We did re-estimate those to 575. That was primarily because we had taken that number from projections from a third party that we contracted with when we opted into the GEMT program. And that was based on call volume and payer mix. So we were kind of shooting in the dark on that, but that's why we had to kind of re-estimate those for looking at fiscal year 25. If we move into the bulk of the budget, the major line items then are wages. We did see an overall increase to the budget about 13%. You will see some differences in the wages. You see the increase in the full-time, but we do see the decrease in the part-time wage line item. That was the conversion of those positions. The rest is just to accommodate for the proposed raises. Any questions so far? The other line items that we're seeing increase to are vehicle operations and repair. Most of that is fuel. Of course, we can't do much about that and any repairs that we have on the vehicles. In the capital equipment line item, we have $8,000 in there. $6,000 of it is for the outdoor warning siren battery replacement. We have 8 warning sirens within the district. And what's that?
I've heard of
Yeah, that's good. You should hear them. And we replace those every 3 years. So they're due for replacement this year. Another $2,000 is for a generator that we need as a backup within our department. So we lose power, we got to be able to open our doors. So it's a portable generator for that. One of the larger asks that we have this year is $20,000 for paramedic certifications. The last round of hiring, when we converted those part-time positions to full-time, we elected to hire EMTs. They were budgeted at a paramedic rate, but we're just short paramedics in the field right now. Nationwide, we're short paramedics. So we did elect to hire EMTs. Great individuals, happy to have them, but they do require some additional training. So we're asking to provide them the training that they need to bring their level of service up to that the citizens of Norwalk here are going to benefit from. CIP, I guess we don't have CIP up there, but the only request that the fire department has this year is an ambulance, cost of $400,000 to include equipment, and we're replacing a 2015 ambulance that we have now. We'll be replacing this 10 years old. Last year we applied for several grants. We're going to go ahead and continue to do that this year. We're looking at the Warren County Philanthropic Grant, Prairie Meadows Community Betterment Grant, Firehouse Subs, and we do that to kind of help offset some of our capital requests. And so staff is working on those as we speak. Per council approval, though, we were given approval to apply for a SAFER grant, which is through FEMA, staffing for adequate fire and EMS response, and that should open here in March. We are asking for 3 full-time firefighters with that. Much like the COPS grant, it's a fully funded program for 36 months and the city would take on those costs. Again, at this time, we had just asked council for approval to write the grant, which we're in process of doing now. So I will be back later whenever we get the decisions from that, fingers crossed, yeah. Staffing, as I just said, we will be writing for the SAFER grant for the additional firefighters. National averages say that we should have, for mostly all career departments, the city should be staffing at 1.54 to 1.81 per thousand people protected. Currently at the staffing level of 4, we are at 0.94 firefighters per thousand, which is well below national averages. Again, we hope by working towards a SAFER grant, we could be increasing those staffing levels of firefighters. I think it's important that as Norwalk continues to grow, that the fire department is growing proportionately so we can continue to provide services to the citizens as they deserve today. We look at additional risks that we have, high rises, those sort of things. It's going to take additional people, and that's kind of the steps to get us where we need to be. In addition to firefighters, the fire department is one of the only departments that does not have administrative staff, along with economic development. As Jean said earlier, we have been working internally to find a solution that we've been very mindful of the budget. We understand the budget constraints, but quite frankly, the administrative workload is just not sustainable for us long term. Again, though we are working internally to find a solution, I just think that it's important that you as council know the state of our department. Any questions?
Good work, roofing.
Okay. Should I make it?
Yeah.
Good. Good job on the E28. So that's excellent.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you getting that done.
All right. We will continue this discussion Thursday, week from today, 5 o'clock. All right, moving on. Item number 5 is presentations. We don't have any for tonight. Item 6 is welcome guests and public comment. Thank you for being here and participating in your local government. We'll go ahead and open up dais. If you'd like to address council or myself for non-agenda items, we'll give you a 3-minute time limit. I realize we can't take action on those tonight since it's not on the agenda. Also, if you'd like to comment on any item in the consent agenda, now would be the time. Anybody want to address council? Seeing none, we will move on. Item 7 is a consent agenda. Tonight, we have expenditures, tax abatements. We have January 18th, 2024 minutes of the regular city council meeting. We have renewal Class C liquor, retail liquor alcohol license, with outdoor service for Legacy Golf Course. And renewal Class B retail alcohol license for Dollar General. We have a resolution fixing date for a public hearing to review an application for state revolving fund or SRF loan for the proposed improvements to the city's water storage facilities. Excuse me. We have a resolution approving general services agreement with Impact Community Action Partnership. We have a resolution approving engineering services for the 2024 street rehabilitation project. We have a resolution approving the purchase of a new Ford Interceptor police vehicle. We have a resolution to approve pay estimate number 3 to Vanderpool Construction for the Sunset Drive Highway 28 and Chatham Avenue intersection improvements project. We have a resolution appointing City of Norwalk representation to the Central Iowa Waterworks Board of Trustees. And we have a resolution appointing City of Norwalk representation to the Central Iowa Waterworks Long Range Planning and Capital Improvements Committee. And finally, we have correspondence. Can I get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
We want a second?
Sure. Brown.
Okay, motion by Meineke, seconded by Brown. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Poole,
Yes.
Livingston, yes, Minneke.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Motion carries. Item 8, we have old and new business for consideration, discussion, and possible action. Item A, it's a public hearing regarding the public safety HVAC project. So we'll open up the public hearing at 6:06 p.m. So the purpose of this hearing is to get public input on the plan specifications, form of contract, and estimate of costs for replacing the HVAC system at the public safety building. This is also the first of several steps required to move forward with the project. Do you have anything to add, Chief?
Just briefly that, for the 2 new council members, we had, put this out for bid previously, got 2 bids that seemed high. We rejected those bids and put it out for bid again, got 2 additional bids, one of which is the one I'm recommending. And that saved us $110,000. I don't think it's gonna go any lower. I think this is probably a smart move to take it. And one good thing about this contractor is they also deal in our control system that we've upgraded already. So there should be less problems attaching the new units to the already existing control system.
All right, Lindsay, have we received any oral or written comments on this item?
We have not.
Any other public comment on this item? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close public hearing at 6:07 p.m. Item 8B is a resolution approving plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the Norwalk Public Safety HVAC upgrades. So we just had a public hearing for this project, and this is the first of 3 resolutions needed to get the project launched. So council passed a resolution that approved the preliminary plan specs, form of contract, and estimate for this project. This resolution is the final approval for all of those. Chief, you got anything to add?
It was slightly above, not slightly, it is above our estimate. When inquiring why, we think that it's involving cost of materials just going up from the time we came up with the estimate and the cost of complying with the city's zoning regulations in terms of screening the units on the rooftop. To save money, the fire department's units are going to be placed on the ground on a concrete pad. Building the concrete pad and screening that was less expensive than figuring out a way to screen the new units on top of the roof of the fire department. So.
All right. Any discussion or comments from council?
I was just gonna comment, when we built that building, it cost about $860,000 for the building itself. So it gives you an understanding of the tremendous increase in material costs and the expense of doing anything. You know, over the last, well, in that case, it's what, 20 years, pretty close to it. But, you know, it's onerous stuff.
That was just the police side, right? That was
Yes, sir. That was just the police.
$860,000 for just the police side. And
Yeah.
now it's gonna cost about that to HVAC the whole thing. Any other comments? Any public comments? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
Motion.
Second. Motion by Cool, seconded by Meineke. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston. Yes. Minneke,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Item 8C is a resolution awarding contract for the Norwalk Public Safety HVAC upgrades. So this is the second of 3 resolutions needed to start the project. This resolution awards the contract to MMC Contractors. Chief, got anything else?
No, sir.
All right, any questions or discussion from council? Or any public comment? Can I get a motion to approve resolution?
Motion.
Second.
All right, motion by Baker, second by Cool. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Cool,
Yeah.
Livingston. Yes. Minneke,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8D, resolution awarding contract and bond for the Norwalk Public Safety HVAC upgrades. So this is the third and final resolution that's needed to get the project rolling. This resolution approves the contract and indicates how the city is going to pay MMC contractors for their work. Chief, anything to add?
No, sir.
Okay, any discussion or comments, questions from council? Any public comment? If I get a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
Motion.
Motion, second.
All right, motion by Cool, seconded by Livingston. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Livingston. Yes. Minneke,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, motion carries. Item 8E is a resolution approving the final plat of Hughes Century Crossing Plat 8. So this is an approval of the final plat, and we're approving a split at the same time, or what do we got going here?
So this is a final plat that is a minor subdivision, basically no public infrastructure involved here, just creating a 1.8 acre lot and redefining the boundaries of that outlot X in the final page of the attachment, primarily to facilitate property transfer. This is an area of the PUD that needs to get a zoning amendment to have anything officially approved to go here. That does not preclude us from being able to approve a property split. So that's the proposal here tonight.
What is it wanting to be zoned as eventually?
There are 4 classifications that the PUD outlines in the master plan: industrial, commercial, town center, R4, or founders residential. So those would be the primary ones that we'd probably look at. Any other commercial designation would not be out of the realm of possibility.
So we don't have anything more to go on than just those 4 items. I'm confused by this whole thing. What are they asking for? And I read it and I still didn't know.
They're asking for a split of this larger piece of land so that the smaller piece can be transacted upon and sold to a prospective developer.
All right, thank you. That makes sense.
Was all the infrastructure for Plat 8, is it all finished?
No infrastructure for Plat 8, which is why it's a minor subdivision. So typically a subdivision plat containing public infrastructure would have pipes, utilities, road. None of that needs to be installed. on this. Both of the parcels being created by the plat border existing utilities. So a development lot can be created here without any public infrastructure added.
What would be the amendment that's required before this continues?
So we did something a little bit unique when we drafted the original PUD document for Hughes Century Crossing. We said that in the land use parcel containing this subdivision, a PUD amendment would have to come forward confirming the zoning classification for whatever goes in this site. This right now is just to facilitate the transfer of this 1.8 acre lot. If at a future date, after we've had an additional pre-app meeting with the developer, we'd have to determine the appropriate zoning class, bring that to you guys, and that would be public hearing, 3 readings, like a typical rezoning process.
So the big drawing that's up there, that's on the screen, there's just a little piece that we're talking about on there, but the rest of it's not done.
Correct. So the rest of that can be.
They'll have to come back with a preliminary plat for the rest of plat 8.
Yep.
Okay.
And that will be plat 9, and that may not be the entire rest of the parcel, could be half of it. And then you'd have plat 10 and so forth.
That makes sense, because I was, as a newbie, I've been there reading this thing, this sound like preliminary as opposed to a final. That explained it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this just enables the transfer of the ground. I had seen, we saw something similar to this with Surrey, like when Fairway purchased property from April up there.
Okay.
In the past, we've done plats of survey, and we're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to do final plats, and that's why this is.
Okay.
Looks maybe a little bit different.
Gotcha. Other questions from council? All right. Any public comment? Can I get a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
You got a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, City Council, Jason Ledden with Snyder and Associates. Our business address is 2727 Southwest Snyder Boulevard in Ankeny. Here on behalf of the developer to purchase or to divide this lot, a little bit more detail. To Elliot's point is he is purchasing the entire parcel, but the money's kind of coming out of 2 separate buckets, and that's the reason for splitting the lot. Is the one bucket is for lot 1, and then the rest is for the outlot. To your point, Mr. Mayor, is this will be an outlot, so it will be an unbuildable lot, so it will have to come back for platting, final plat, improvements and so forth. To the staff's comments about public road access through here, we agree with those. We need to meet with staff and kind of discuss a holistic approach to this and how those connections happen between this and back to the west as well. So we agree to work with staff to continue to develop this as a development comes forward, but right now just looking to split the ground. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make a motion.
Anybody second?
Second.
Oh, too late, Jackie. I got a motion by Meineke and second by Cool. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Meineke,
Aye.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston. Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8F, resolution approving the preliminary plat of Greg Young Plat 1. So this plat is the area to the west of Highway 28, like behind McDonald's. Greg Young is creating the infrastructure to allow building on the lots, and after we approve the final plat, of course. So, Elliot, it's yours.
Yep, a little bit of backstory on this. The Planning and Zoning Commission approved a grading plan for this area a while back. They have the authority to grant that without that needing to go to council. So that's why there was some work being done there earlier in the fall. And yeah, this is a preliminary plat, basically quartering that greater area and providing an extension of that drive that serves come and go in McDonald's now all the way to the south to Turnberry Drive, and then another road bisecting it east-west. They're wanting to put in some formalized utilities in there, storm sewer, sanitary water, all the usual stuff in a preliminary plat. That'll result in there being 4 lots in the prelim. Again, they'd have to come back to final plat and be lots of record. Our understanding is that the applicant has not identified users for the lots yet, and so further subdivision may occur within this. Much like the prior item, there's still some considerations to be made, but the preliminary plat meets all of the requirements of the zoning ordinance, and we're recommending approval. So happy to answer any questions if there are any.
And okay, and I'm gonna ask this several times throughout this whole process with Greg Young. He understands that all this stormwater detention west of Highway 28 needs to stay on his property.
Yes.
All right.
I noticed in the diagram you were trying to follow it, right? And the stormwater drainage, right? And that's an underground system for the most part there, is that right? It's not gonna be an open. Okay.
Correct. There will be on-site detention required for each development lot, and then eventually that'll be undergrounded into the below ground system. Yeah.
Okay, so the below ground system will lead into our regular storm sewer system. Okay. The one main entrance that I noticed there, what appeared to be a main entrance, looks like it has flared lanes for access onto the state highway.
Mhm.
Is that something that's viable with the state people?
Yep.
Part of the concept.
Yep. One of the things that Tony Belizzi requested as part of the engineering review is the confirmation of the right in, right out location. And so that's something that Olson and Associates is working on with the DOT right now.
Okay. No, one last question. During about a month ago or so, I think I visited with your boss a little bit. And I had concerns, and the public had shared concerns with me because that was freshly graded. And I couldn't see from where I was at that there were erosion prevention. What do you call this? The erosion.
Silt fence?
Yeah.
Mhm.
On that ditch that leads down into our pond, right? I didn't see any there. And I asked if you would have a staff member take a look. And I know I'm kind of blindsided here, and usually I don't do that. Usually I ask questions at a time.
Mhm.
But to your knowledge, would you know whether or not anybody has confirmed that they have erosion controls on that ditch?
Yeah, they do. So we went and you're talking about on the west side of the highway?
Yes.
Where they graded? Yeah. So
Right.
they initially put up a silt fence leading down into that ditch, and it did undercut at one point, and we had to have them go in and beef it up. Since then, we've been checking on it every few weeks. And so, yeah, that's a thing we're keeping an eye on still.
All right, thank you for that.
Elliot, I have a question.
Sure.
Just want to make sure that I understand. I know we corresponded about this a little bit, but this request does not yet include streets, correct? Or doesn't?
The paving of the roads would be part of the infrastructure build out following approval of this prelim plat.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, that would include an extension of the road that's already there or new roads?
It would be an extension of the road serving McDonald's and Come and Go all the way south to Turnberry, and then also a new east-west road.
All right, and that would connect to a private road and therefore making at least part of these roads private, is that correct?
Correct.
Which one's private?
Both the north, south, and east-west roads we've got on the prelim plat identified as private. Luke and I did a review of this against the ordinance that was passed towards the end of last year regarding, let's see what it is, commercial private roads serving private commercial property. We look at those and determine that they meet the definition of parking access roads. And so in the past, we've been directed by council to avoid doing private roads that connect to public roads unless they fit that set of definitions that are in there. And we determined that they do. So that's where those sit.
And I don't have any quarrel with your determination. My issue continues to be using private roads for what is effectively a through street. And so that's how right internal to this project, once it starts getting developed and there's parking and that kind of thing, I don't really have problems with private roads that directly feed or surround the parking. I have problems with private roads that are through. So that my position hasn't changed in that regard, but anyway, that's all I have.
Other discussion from council? Questions? Or any public input?
I'd make a motion.
I'll second it. All right, motion by Baker, seconded by Cool. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
No.
Meineke.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8G, resolution approving the site plan of Christian Brothers Automotive. So Christian Brothers Automotive is taking the next step, has submitted their site plan for their shop. Shop's going to be located between Scooters Coffee and Mercy Clinic. Elliot, anything to add?
Nothing major. I know that we had to go through the PUD amendment for Echo Valley or parcel J, land use parcel J, towards the end of the year last year for adding automotive uses here. Along with that were some architectural additions to architectural requirements that would be typical for this type of use, and they've met those. So everything else is compliant with zoning. I know we have folks here tonight that represent the project. Otherwise, I can take questions as well.
Any questions, discussion?
What changed from when this was like first, I don't know how to put it, like first brought up till now? Anything? Or I feel like I was at a meeting where this was talked about and then it went away. And then,
That was the change to the zoning from to allow automotive use there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's gone through several times.
Yep.
The vote for passing at the council level was not unanimous.
Yeah,
But
it's still, okay.
It's stayed consistent throughout the proposal, but with council members on vacation stuff, it took longer than normal as far as to get through council. But I don't think there was any appreciable changes to it from the time P and Z saw it.
Yeah, thank you. My only question is on the detention for stormwater. They apparently have a plan on that side of the road that it goes to a pond. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, so most of the commercial development in this general area is served by a regional facility that's off-site. And so this property can use that one. The development engineer sent us a summary of the flow calculations and whatnot for the proposed pipe, and our city engineer confirmed that's adequate. So
I suppose like Greg Young they're not in a district, regional district apparently.
Off the top of my head, I can't quite remember, but
I can explain that one. Yeah. So when we built Holland Park, that is meant as a regional retention for stormwater. An agent at the time, Hubble owned west of Highway 28. Hubble's agent said that they did not want to participate and make Holland Park bigger to be able to put them into that region. So at that point in time, they said that they would do on-site detention on the west side of Highway 28. So Holland Park is not sized to handle that stormwater.
Okay, gotcha.
Based on it.
All right, thank you.
Good question.
Thank you.
What other questions, comments that do people have? Anybody online or any public comment? You're excited to get going.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. I'm Brad Keel with Bishop Engineering, 3501 104th Street in Urbandale. Here tonight with Christian Brothers Automotive. Billy Green Jr. is here with me as well from Houston. Yes, we're very excited to get this project coming forward. Just to elaborate a little bit on the detention. When there's a regional detention facility, you have to meet a certain runoff from your site. And so we have shown that we can do that. And so that's kind of how that works in that sense. But yeah, very happy to bring this forward. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have for the site in general. And Billy cannot answer any questions operational wise. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion. Second.
Okay, so motion by Cool, seconded by Minneke. Any further discussion?
Get her built.
All right. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Minneke,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Yeah. Good luck.
Thank you.
Item 8H is a resolution approving a Warrior Run Estates Plat 4 Parkland Agreement. So at Warrior Run, there's a current park at the corner of Shady Lane Drive and Warrior Run Drive.
That's in the green box on this little map?
I believe that's true, yeah.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, right there. So it's an undeveloped park. And now that Diligent is tearing down the golf course to put up a housing development, they'd like to use that park for access into the new development. This resolution is a new parkland agreement that addresses the replacement for the current park and the additional acres of parkland needed for the new development.
I don't have much really to say on this, more so on the next agenda item, since that's the plat germane to it. But you can kind of see the math on that first page, that we got 1.18 acres existing. The original agreement kind of contemplated the city owning that kind of in escrow, anticipating future development. So in the forthcoming prelim plat, we're showing more than enough to cover the replacement of that, as well as future acreage for the prelim plat that's coming up on the agenda. I didn't know if Jim had anything to add since he was a little more hands-on with it, but
Nope, I think he pretty much accurately said it. Other than that, the city's already entered into we're contractually bound to do this trade. When we accepted that, we need to get park dedication for previous plats. And in that parkland dedication agreement, we agreed with Diligent that if they continued on with the new plats that needed that area's roadway, that we would convey it back. So it was contemplated a few years back that this would be happening. So I don't think it's a surprise to anybody.
Questions?
So it was dedicated because it had to be initially,
That's right.
Yes.
but it was assumed when the next thing came up, we'd get rid of it and we'd have something else.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
And then we can see that something else in the next picture.
Yes,
Sorry, the next resolution.
correct.
Outlot X and Z. And is that right?
yeah, some combination of those.
So lot X is outlot Y too, but. I mean,
X and Y.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking about how they fit together.
My question would be on outlot X for a park, if that's gonna be a park. So the odds of that being a park is 100%? Or,
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
the plan, yeah.
I'm not a park expert, but just gonna ask the question. It doesn't seem very inviting that you have to walk between a couple of houses to get into the park. And maybe I'm just seeing that little corner, or am I not reading this right?
You are reading that right, I believe.
Doesn't seem very safe either.
They did make a revision to widen out that access next to lot 13. Our zoning ordinance only requires 40 feet of frontage for a parkland piece. And they've made an effort to get that remedied. But that's what our zoning code requires, and if they do that, that checks that box.
Right. Other questions and comments?
So right now, we just approving what? What are we looking at?
The parkland agreement that
This immediate vote is for the parkland agreement that's in front of you. Then the next item is approving the plat.
Okay, so this vote would allow us to give back the use of this
That's right.
property
That's right.
with the understanding that we will be compensated either through land
Yeah.
or perhaps funding.
Or through, right now it's land. This agreement says we can do land. So they've got the acreage. And really the council, we wanted the council to consider this first because if the council didn't like the park dedication swap or the details of it, we wouldn't want you to be voting on plat next. So if they're already,
Okay.
you know,
I'm perplexed by this because I don't know how we use the space that's been closed. I don't understand how that benefits the city. I mean, I don't see a place for baseball diamonds, parking, playgrounds. I don't get it. I see us mowing grass for developers so we can keep green space. So I guess I'll take comments.
Tim Portson with Diligent Development. So parkland dedication is a requirement, part of your ordinance. You require us to give you parkland. It's less of a offering from us,
Or-
more of a,
Or something in lieu.
I don't believe that that's the case, Jim. I think it's,
there is no, our
requires-
ordinance does have the ability for the council to negotiate, you know, something in lieu of the actual acreage if, you know, there's enabling ordinance on that. So that is, I mean, that is allowed.
to my knowledge, we were following the code. It says 1,110 square feet per every lot of parkland. As some of you know, over the last year and a half, there was a lot of discussions about park in Warrior Run and it was decided not to have a larger park area at that time. So, we're just trying to, you know, do what we're required to do, without giving more park ground than what the city wanted when we had the regional, park discussions. So, as far as access, you know, again, through the year and a half of conversations on this, we were all very aware that there are houses that back the golf course and it would be what we thought important to continue to have a buffer there. So we've attempted to essentially do what we thought was what everybody wanted us to do, which was create a buffer, provide the parkland that's required in the ordinance and not provide more park ground than what was required. But I'm, you know, willing to open up that discussion again, if that's something that the council wants to consider, but this was kind of our reaction to some of the other conversations on park ground in Warrior Run.
Well, am I understanding it correctly, the boundaries like in this diagram? So the area is inside the yellow line or what you're looking at for dedication?
No, this is kind of a master plan concept from a little while back on how it could be built out. If you recall, we had a lot of concepts that showed varying levels of parkland, varying levels of some of it being parkland, some of it being HOA, whether it was city or private, had varying levels of density. So what we're talking about right now is just the plat that's in front of you, which the only parkland dedication at this time would be the 2 outlots that are in that plat. You might recall there were probably like 5 versions of this that had varying levels of green on it.
Yep.
And we kind of left that with to do what's required. We don't need more park ground.
So then we're discussing outlot X and outlot Z.
I would not refer to this document that's on the screen right now. I would refer to the plat. So outlaw X and outlaw Y, I believe.
This thing here, this is X.
Yeah,
Oh, X and Y.
and that was what was kind of retained as that green belt kind of trail loop potential that we talked about. Again, probably over a year ago now.
Oh, you would actually go through lot 2 and 47 connect somehow.
It would
Line
leave
with
the
wall.
opportunity to do that if it was desired.
I think there's a 20-foot trail easement on those two lots.
Well, that would make more sense to me. As opposed to having two separate.
Yeah, I mean, the concept is kind of be able to meander all that through. It was a bit of a regional concept at one point in time. And the idea is to try and continue that in concept, but just not in scale, I guess. So everything just shrunk down to be what was required. What we heard from the council was that we don't need to take care of more parkland than what we need, but we still have a parkland requirement. So.
Has Parks and Rec commented on this at all? Did I miss that?
Robin is not here tonight.
I was curious, who's the Parks liaison? Maybe they could shed some light on the discussion or anything.
Well, I am the park liaison. Thank you for asking. And so far, we haven't had a meeting to discuss this particular topic lately. I know it was discussed in the past at parks.
Yeah, I remember that.
I know they had some concerns over how they might use different areas depending on how they laid out and how they might gain access. You know.
Okay, so we don't have any new info.
Yeah, we don't have current or new info on it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no, the thing, you know, I look at that, oh, the police chief's back in the room. Chief, how would you patrol outlaw X?
It'd be difficult. You have to do it on foot. You have to get out and walk in there. It's open ground behind houses. Eventually there'll be a fence grid that'll prevent walking between the houses to the park.
I don't know, I don't like it. I don't like the way it's laid out. I don't see how it benefits the city. If they want to put a trail in and have green space, I mean, that's fine. But I don't know if the city needs to be doing that because our, you know, how the heck are we gonna attend it? What are we gonna do with it?
I think this is kind of a similar case in a lot of subdivisions. I think Blooming Heights and the Cruise development next door kind of had a situation where the park was behind houses. Yeah, we're meeting the 40-foot. We're doing what we're told to do. Doing what we're told to do while trying to appease the existing neighbors. I'm not adamantly in support of this. I'm not opposed to this. If you guys said, you know what, in this situation, we'd rather not have parkland dedication and that can be the HOA's responsibility and we'll just forego parkland dedication because we don't want park. You know, that's fine. I don't necessarily give away ground just for the sake of giving away ground. We're just trying to meet the requirements of the city.
The appeasement is the concern of what the current view is and then what it will become. From the people who are on kind of that north. West side of this.
Yes, and partially just where our street stubs are, so where the intersection is for both the north and the west side.
But was that
the street layout makes, I mean, general sense.
But we had some feedback from citizen, and I presume it was somebody on that sort of like land there
Yeah, I think so.
And sort of it's a way of keeping them, they can look out on something green.
So let's take a step back and just look at the parkland dedication agreement.
Okay.
Are you okay with trading the 1.18 acres of, for the replacement of the existing parkland, and the final total would be 4.11 acres within the development area?
Yes. I'm not. I'd like to.
Doesn't matter where. But they'll have 4.11 acres of parkland.
Right, I know, I really.
Okay,
Because that corner to me doesn't make sense anyway.
correct.
Regardless, no matter what happens in the future, and that's not, nobody's like pining for that to be something, I don't think.
Right.
I'd like us to be able to retain our option of funding in lieu of. If we do this, we're accepting the county period. Right? Isn't that right, Councilman? We agree to this agreement, we don't have an option.
That's correct. Yeah, this contemplates the acres. I think one of the things pushing this, when are you want to start this?
We have submitted construction drawings.
Okay, so you're right way down.
Moving streets, I mean, it would be a complete overhaul.
Uh-huh, okay.
And because, you know, I don't like, I'm not like passionate that I like,
Mhm.
oh, this is gonna be the most amazing park for you guys in the city and it's amazing. But we are meeting all the requirements. We're following the rules that you set. It was recommended at P and Z. We tried for a year and a half to work through a better parkland situation. So for us to have to completely redesign this and find 4 acres somewhere else, would be tough. I probably would just not sign the resolution and let you guys keep the park that you have now until I have something figured out.
Can I comment?
Absolutely.
So, I'm like, I think that I'm understanding what everybody's saying. And I'm really kind of frustrated because my memory is as Tim's. He came forward before, he offered certain parkland. Park and Rec by Robin said, yep, I can do this with this part, I can do that with this part, I can make this what he's proposing usable. And the majority of council said, nope, we don't want that much park ground. We want you to do it only how much park ground's required. And so he came back and he did only what parkland's required. And now we're saying, nope, we don't like, again, how you are proposing to give us your land. This is frustrating for me, and if our position is going to be the majority of us that, nope, this doesn't work either, I think we owe him the courtesy of telling him exactly what we expect so that he doesn't have to waste more time and more money to come up with a design based on the feedback he's getting without any clear direction of what we want.
Jackie, just to clarify, when you say we, I'm not sure who all falls into that pronoun.
Fair
So,
enough.
yeah.
Fair enough. We being council in the generic sense. I understand we have 2 new council members, but the majority of the council, when this came up last time, said, no, we don't want what you want to give us. And now there's voices from the council now who are saying, yep, I don't like this either. So whatever we decide as the majority of the council, I just think we being the entire council, need to give him clear indication and clear parameters of what we want if we're saying no to this also.
Well, I haven't changed my position. But each person maybe can just matter for themselves.
Yeah, the way I look at it, I was just sitting there looking at it, just drive by parks and usually it's kind of wide open. Parking, get out, go to the park, or walk the park, bike the park, whatever it might be. And I just kind of started looking at this and that doesn't, look very inviting to say, hey, come to our park. I know you can put a sign up there and this is the park and what have you. And, but at the same time, if we were further down the road so far, I don't want to sit there and have what maybe prior councils told you to act on and then come back and say, I don't like it. I don't particularly care for it, but I would hope that maybe in the future we wouldn't be doing stuff like this unless it made sense. And I'm not in your business, and I'm just from a consumer walking, be walking by a park. I would say, like they're wide open generally when you come to them, unless there's a driveway all the way back to it and you can park back there and that type of thing, like a state park or a county park type situation. But
And there could be a driveway here. I mean, that's the whole point of the parkland.
Yeah.
We, the developer, donate the land to the city, and then the city just, they decide whether it's a baseball field, a playground, a parking lot, an XYZ. So, and I will say, technically this outlot X covers more than what's required as replacement and for our plat. Technically, if we were following, again, the rules that you set for me to follow, this park would actually be quite a bit smaller. You're actually getting future plats donation in one park to try and make that bigger and more usable.
And I'll just add real quick from the staff side of things, since Robin's not here, we kind of had to deal with three main things when working with the developer on the organization of this whole thing. One, there was the idea of the folks that already live up there that wanted to preserve the view of their backyard. They bought a house on a golf course and wanted to have a buffer space. In our mind, this kind of maximizes that for those folks, which, it helps them out with the sales pitch to the neighbors and to whoever else is coming into the development. Secondly, the amount of ground that they need. We saw the math in the parkland dedication agreement. They're well over that ground amount that's required. And it seems that in the past, council has emphasized getting ground as a main goal, more so than the cash in lieu thing. And if Robin's okay with that, the third item is just what can be done. And as Tim said, with the 40 feet of frontage, you can easily put a road back there if need be. If that helps chief with patrolling in the back, then that's a programming element that has to happen at some point. Obviously, with a subdivision like this, it'll take a few years to build out. And there's probably I'm not going to put words in Robin's mouth or assume anything about her budget, but I think there's a pathway forward there for her. And she told us that she could work with the plan here. So I guess in our mind, that checked all the bridges that we needed from a staff level on this plan.
I do think too, if you drive through and look at some of the other parks in the area, to be totally honest with you, no secret, developers aren't putting in hundreds of foot of linear street to not sell lots on them. And I don't know that the city wants 100 feet of linear public infrastructure that they take care of and maintain and not have taxable value on them. So I think it's fairly frequent that these parks do end up at the rear of houses because the houses need access to the street and the infrastructure. So I don't think that's uncommon if you would look at some of the other plats that are probably been submitted for residential plats. But
Brian.
The whole process that we went through before, I do remember aspects of that, like Jackie mentioned, but at the same time, it was much more complicated. We were looking at regionalizing, maybe taking parkland from other, even unrelated housing developments and applying into this. It was very complicated, and I was on Parks and Rec at the time, and there was a lot of moving parts to it. I don't know that it was cut and dried one way or the other. This is probably, in my opinion, about the best we could come up with right now. But at the same time, I mean, we were looking at the commercial building, we were looking at the pond at the bottom, we were looking at all kinds of stuff. It was very complicated and very large. It would have been an additional employee just to do the mowing on this whole area. So there were a lot of moving parts, but I think the way this is laid out right here, it probably makes the most sense for our needs right now.
Mayor, it's Tony Blizek. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I just want to add a couple of comments to some of the things Tim said and some of the discussions been going on. First of all, I just want to make sure the council understands this outlot X area is about 3.2 acres. One of our concerns that's been discussed is the access to that. We wanted to make sure that was wider so you could actually access that and put a drive in there. This 3.2 acre parkland area, the city can really do a lot with that. I mean, if you look at some of the examples, the park on Orchard Hills Drive, that's about four acres. About 1.5 acres of that is detention area, and the rest is developed into a park with a shelter, 2 play areas, restroom, and a large parking lot. So there's really a lot we can do. I don't know if the Park and Recs decided exactly what this park would look like, or what some of these neighborhood parks that we've got with a lot of these subdivisions. The other thing I want to mention, we talked about some examples. There really are a lot of examples in other subdivisions real similar to this. And the one I'll point out that everyone should look at is the one in Timber Ridge. That's kind of at the corner of Plum Drive and Timberview Drive. It has a small access off the road. It's 2 point some odd acres, and with lots really surrounding it with a narrow access off of the right of way. So this is really real similar to a lot of the park dedication in other subdivisions. And mainly, I just wanted the council to understand there's a lot the city can do with this 3.2 acre site.
Thanks, Tony. Okay, so for the parkland agreement, are you wanting to see some stipulation in the agreement that they could do cash in lieu of?
Yeah, that we could consider it, yeah.
What would you say to that?
I almost think that if, unless we're gonna take the way that it is right now, I don't think there's any way we can vote on it tonight. I mean, I'll be honest, because there's a lot of negotiations there, and the way the code's set up is we get to give input. City can give input regarding the park ground and where the park ground goes. It's an absolute as far as the number of acres. So
I'm fine with moving ahead with the proposal.
Okay.
Yeah, you might have enough votes to get it done. I don't know what the head count is.
It sounds like Jackie is. Sounds like Brian is.
Just a little more.
Correct.
I think we're good. Okay, so for the parkland agreement, and we're only talking about parkland agreement right now. We're not talking about the plat. Can I get a motion? Okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, so I got a motion by Livingston, a second by Brown. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Cool,
No.
Livingston,
Yes.
Meineke,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Now we get to go to 8I. Which is a resolution approving the preliminary plat of Warrior Plat 4. So with that action that you just took to regards to the parkland agreement, Diligent wants to get started on this new housing development that we've been talking a lot about already. Elliot, what else you have on that?
I don't really have anything to add. I guess maybe the only thing I'd point out, there's a site detail on there somewhere describing removal of site aspects. One of the things that's going to contribute to the usability of Outlot X is the filling in of one of the decorative ponds from the golf course. Just in the engineering review, we determined that it wasn't really viable as a meaningful stormwater detention source and the usable dry spaces better ultimately for the city.
Okay. We did get an email. I think everybody got an email and those will be in the minute. That email will be in the minutes. And we did get an updated map in front of us for the plat 4.
The primary change on that was just the frontage of Outlot X on the south side of it, hitting that 40-foot mark, which is the minimum required by the zoning ordinance. Unless there were any other small modifications, Mr. Paul.
Yeah, just looking up for erosion control measures.
Okay.
Where does there's like, you said that there's a 40-foot sidewalk easement?
No, so just the frontage of the
No, I
parcel.
mean like.
The trail easement?
Lots 2 and 47.
Yep, so the northwesternmost, I think it's 20 feet.
Is it between 1 and 2 and 47 and 48?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't really, I don't really see it on there.
I think Elliot.
Yep. Page.
Oh, there's
In
public
one-
trail easement.
Yep.
Sorry, on sheet 4.
The call out is on parcel on Outlot X.
Okay. Here. Trail easement, 20, okay, so it's a 20-foot easement between the two.
And that runs on both sides. It's on lot 47 and on lot 2. Okay.
Correct. All right. Other questions or comments on this one? That we haven't already made? I get a motion to approve resolution as presented.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, so I got a motion by Livingston, second by Meineke. Any further discussion?
Is that an easement between 19 and 20 also?
Over on the old stuff on plat 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll have to give access to the park also.
Yeah, there's a trail that goes through those townhomes, those single story townhomes.
Okay.
So, yeah, essentially.
Okay.
I mean, again, back when we had this concept for this regional park,
right,
we had already kind of contemplated pedestrian access to this kind of central green area. So that's why, you know, the trail between Outlot Y and Outlot X, so that again, pedestrians don't have to walk down streets, they can walk through trails. The townhomes don't have to walk all the way around, they can cut through. This is, you know, fairly well used in like Clive. You talk about Clive green belts, they've got little pocket parks that are like completely buried, and then they just have a bunch of trail systems to get to them. So.
You did, we motion? And then you just need to ask.
That's all I gotta do.
Yep.
Oh, we were on further discussion, weren't we?
Yeah, we got motion second on it.
Okay. Then you interrupted me. Sorry. You got me
I was
sidetracked.
waiting for the
Saw a
moment
squirrel.
where-
Saw a squirrel.
We're like Ed and I were gonna fight.
Okay.
I've been wondered when it was gonna happen. I didn't like my chances.
You think it was gonna be tonight?
But I'm looking pretty good.
All right. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
I sure will. Livingston,
Yes.
Meineke,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown.
Yeah.
Cool.
No. All right. Motion carries. Thank you, guys. Excuse me. Item 9 is future agenda items. So the purpose for this is to give council, for council to give direction to staff by way of motion, have items placed on future agendas. Anybody have anything? Hearing none, we will move on. Item 10 is council inquiries and staff updates. Jim?
No, sir.
Brian?
I'm good.
All right. George?
I went to my first P and Z meeting and they were well, asked them what they wanted me to do and be there every time.
All right. Ed?
I don't know, only thing I've got, Mayor, is I had some excitement last Sunday.
Oh.
Had a chance to apply my old police skills. I found out I don't move as fast as I do. One of the troopers was in a pursuit off Lexington. Yeah, right next to my vehicle. Surprised my wife, she didn't understand what's going on. And then it went into a ditch there by Beardsley, up near Happy Hollow. And the trooper chased the driver. Eventually I got there to attempt to help him handcuff him. It took me a while. It wasn't as quick as it was the old days. But anyway, I don't know, it just points out you know, how quick things can happen, how important well, all the public safety is. And, you know, we ask a lot of those folks, they get out there. Trooper was alone. He's waiting for his backup to show up. I hung out till the backup got there, you know. But you don't want that. You don't want people out there in those kind of circumstances.
Right.
Anyway, that would be my only comment. And other than that, beautiful day today.
Indeed. All right, Elliot.
Try to keep it as brief as I can. I gave everybody a little handout before the meeting with a 1 and 2 on a couple of development, just slapdash things that I thought of while looking at the Greg Young property. I also emailed you guys about it. I noticed while studying that preliminary plat that those blocks are almost exactly the same size as those in the development I visited when I was in Orlando. And I decided to do a little number crunching and some parking spot counting. And I did a compare and contrast between if we were to build, we being anybody really, if we were to build in that style on those blocks, or if we were to do layout number 2, which consists of a popular national Italian restaurant chain, a popular seafood restaurant chain, and a national bank building, and kind of what the numbers might look like. The comps were actually very similar between the Orlando area and Des Moines as far as those restaurant valuations go. But just kind of wanted to give you guys an idea of visualizing what those types of developments might look like, and the market value from the tax rolls that each one might theoretically represent. Also, can't ever forget about accommodating parking. So I also counted by hand all the parking stalls in each of those developments.
That's dedication now.
Nifty Google Street View work on my part. But then on the reverse, I also just showed like an isometric view and what those might look like if they were to be photographed by a drone, just to give you guys a bit of visual. I linked the Google Maps locations in the email, so please do explore at some point. I don't get a chance to talk to you guys too much and nerd out like this, so thought I'd jump at the opportunity. That's all.
It's a good location for something experimental too, Elliot.
Mhm.
A little different.
Now I got to navigate the discussional waters with Greg Young and convince him to, do something different.
This is a real area.
Both of those are real. Yeah.
It's-
I like the theme we have going in Norwalk, where there would be 3 Red Lobsters right next to each other, or 3 right next to each other. That's like perfect for Facebook. They'll have fun with it.
I do love shrimp.
I want a steakhouse and then a seafood shop next to it. I think that'd be great.
All from me.
All right, thanks, Elliot. Carrie.
Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Tony.
Nothing else from me, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Luke Nelson, you got to go away, or do you want to go now, or do you want to go later?
I can go right now. Just 2 quick things. Wanted to thank staff for covering for me tonight. Specifically, Lindsay, thanks for taking on both your duties and mine for the evening. Appreciate it. Also, just a heads up to all the elected officials. If you have any budget questions before the next meeting, something that you think of afterwards, pop Gene or I an email and we'll do some research and be prepared at the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Wayne.
Thank you, Mayor. We've been having regular meetings with MetroNet. A few years ago, the city executed an agreement with them to provide high-speed internet in Norwalk. They've started submitting construction plans for their conduit. The letter agreement spells out that they are able to install what they call a HUD in our right of way. We've been working, they had 2 locations in mind. One of them was Echo Valley Drive. And we've been working with Jim on that. They're gonna abandon that one. They prefer to put their HUD on Colonial Parkway now. We met today, the reasoning being it's more centrally located and they construct what they call rings. It's for redundancy of their system. So they're proposing to install their HUD on Colonial Parkway on the south side. Their HUD looks similar to what Lindsay has brought up on the screen. And if you show the other page, right there, right south of Greg Young on the other side of Colonial Parkway. So we're gonna try to locate between 2 trees and they're gonna work with us on landscaping and try to make it as aesthetically pleasing as it can be. So just want to give you a heads up, we're still working on it and things are moving.
You said on the south side, right?
Correct. That's all I have tonight. Jason, any comments?
You did really appreciate your brevity, Mike. I am excited about Metro.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, when I got the little postcard, I was like, cool.
Yeah, I've signed up.
Yeah,
They're gonna, they'll send you updates as far as construction when they think, yeah. So, yep. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. January was a really busy month for the fire department. We hit a record number of 181 calls for service, which is a 40% increase from January of last year. We don't have anything to kind of pinpoint it to, but it was busy. Let me tell you that. Also want to give congratulations to Madison Foley. She was a 100-pound freshman here from Norwalk that qualified for the girls state wrestling tournament. Under coach Alana Vederick, who happens to be my daughter. So she didn't make it out of this session today, but still super proud of her for being the first girl in Norwalk to qualify.
Were you there at the game on Tuesday?
I was not. I saw the videos and stuff. Yeah.
But she just was sitting out there. I mean, your daughter was with her, but
Yeah.
she was just
All by herself. Yeah. Yeah, you know, my daughter.
and we were all standing up and applauding for her.
That's awesome. My daughter wrestled from 3rd grade on and into college. And so she was kind of one of those groundbreakers, and to see them now have a sanctioned tournament has been pretty surreal for our family. It's exciting to still be a part of it. So that's all. Thank you.
Cool, thanks. Chief.
Saturday, the 27th, was a public safety of Warren County chili cook-off to benefit Officer Spur. It raised $5,705. Additional funds have come into Officer Spur after that, from people who saw the account on the news. So awesome to see Indianola Police Department do that for one of our police officers and for everybody who came down and participated in our fire department. Had a pot of chili that was pretty darn good, but not as good as Norwalk, please, because we weren't. Secondly, today we had a regional chiefs meeting and we got a very brief update from the Dallas County Sheriff about lessons learned at the Perry High School shooting. And just some minor tweaks to some of the things that we have here that they also had there that ended up not working as well as they thought. So I've got a couple small ideas that can make our potential response, whatever happens here, a little bit better. So we'll work to implement those shortly. That's all, Mayor.
Great. Gene.
I have nothing.
Gene.
Thank you.
Lindsay.
Anyone you know that might want to work for the census, please let them know. I told you you're going to hear it a lot. We have 5 applicants, and as of a couple weeks ago, we just had 1. So I guess that's improvement, but we need a lot more than that. They want like 110 applicants.
Wow.
So that's all I have.
Okay, thanks. Jason. Jackie. Jackie dropped.
I think she maybe did drop off.
Jackie dropped.
Yeah.
guess that leaves me. I don't really have anything for tonight. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Cool, seconded by Mike. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed saying. 7:13.
Hey, I'm not bad.
See you next Thursday.
See you Thursday.